Alrighty, here we are. Ooh, our first workshop of 2022, Ethics for Professional Tarot Readers with me and Mary Brown. Hey, Mary, you want to tell them, who are you?
That is a lifelong quest to answer that question. No.
As the guild
So
goes,
I am, right. Okay. Well, that's easier. I'm vice president of the Tarot Guild and the director of communications. I've been with the Tarot Guild for, I don't know, a long time,
10
since
years.
I want to say, 2011, I think. 2011, 2012, and in there.
That's 10. Go with that.
Yeah, you do the math. You're the numbers guy. I'm not adding. But no, let's see, 2011, because I moved here in 2012. I feel like I don't know, I'm going to get sidetracked. 2010, 2011, around in there. I don't know exactly when, but yeah. And I co-host the Tarot Today radio show with our very own Dax Carlisle. And I also host a monthly radio show called There's Rock for That, all about crystals and other stuff. And I write a monthly column for the Tarot Guild website called Unveiled with Mary Brown. And that's me. That's it. I'm a certified tarot master through the Tarot Guild. I started way back when we had the endorsed readers program. Mm-hmm. And it just feels like I've been around a long time.
Did you mention director of communications?
At the top, yeah.
Yeah, let everybody know what that means. I have had people go, what's a director of communications?
Right, so communications ideally, right? It has to do with publicity. It has to do with how an organization communicates outwardly. So communicating with other publishers, communicating with, mainly what I do in that capacity is book talent for the Tarot Today radio show. Also like to keep relations going, also to kind of put the word out. In a sense, we're all self-promoters here. We promote our readings as readers. We promote decks if we're deck creators, or writers promote their own books and stuff. And I'm always talking up the Tarot Guild. I'm letting people know that we're there who may not know that we're there. I'm putting the word out, saying like, hey, we would love to have you on our Tarot Today radio show so our members can get a chance to hear, what you're doing. Why did you write this book? What's this about? How can people benefit from it? I spent a lot of time as a Hollywood entertainment journalist, and so I worked with I don't know, you name a film company, and I know their publicity department. So it's kind of been something that was just kind of a natural fit.
Oh, absolutely natural fit for sure. And so Mary's in contact with all the major publishers, everything from Red Feather to Schiffer, Llewellyn, US Games, all the big names, and the deck creators, authors, and so forth, because we want to bring all that talent and all those products, to our members.
Oh, and really the thing that everybody tuning into this really needs to know is, hey, if you have a tarot deck, or you have an oracle deck, or you have a book about tarot, and you would like to get the word out, one's coming up, ones that have become a classic even, or that you think it's important that we know, like, hey, I'm a member and I did this book, I did this deck, shoot me a message through the Tarot Guild. Mary Brown, that's where I am. You can email me, Mary at thetarotguild.com, and let me know about it. So we can, bring attention to that, because we love to put the spotlight on our own members.
Yeah, we can even do a book launch, have them on the radio shows, do a video interview like this, and promote you. Yes.
That's
So, oh, Rini put up her certificate. That's so cute. Look at that. Certified tarot reader,
Aw,
Rini Rose.
congratulations.
Woo-hoo.
Cool.
We we have
Yay.
we have so many. God.
No, I'm not doing that intentionally. I'm fiddling around because,
Oh,
hi guys.
hi.
Oh, hi.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
because
Congratulations.
when I'm not on a Zoom call, I can't change what shows up under my name.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mhm.
can only do it while I'm on Zoom. So I was down there trying to add things I might want to flash from time to time, including a picture of myself. So
Right.
I'm kind of fiddling.
Awesome.
Don't take it personally, guys.
Oh, you go ahead and do that in the background, and we'll
We
continue
I'm
won't
on.
take
listening.
it personally.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah, we'll continue on with the workshop here. So basically, Mary and I have been doing this for, let's just say, multiple decades, so we don't give away too much, but and ethics is something that has come up. It was one of the first things that we did as a guild in 2004 when we started the Tarot Guild, was write a code of ethics for the Tarot Guild. And pretty picture, we like it. And so if anybody doesn't know me yet, I don't know how that's possible, but anyway, I'm Dax. Yes, I'm Dax. I've been president of the Tarot Guild for 18 years, and I'm old. I've gone from dark hair to gray hair in doing this, and it's been quite a trip here. And as I said, that's one of the first things. The original, there was like 3 or 4 original founders, me and Mark Reed and a couple other people, and we got things going in San Diego, California in 2004. It seems like a lifetime ago now, but we wrote the code of ethics, and we've expanded upon the code of ethics. We've looked at what other organizations have put in their codes, and just what non-tarot related organizations and groups have in their codes. And what we've distilled it down to, what we have right now, we think is really good, but it's just really a framework. We always tell people, you can add on, you can build onto the code. Now, if you haven't ever been over to the page to check out the code, it's thetarotguild.com/code. We try to make things as easy as possible. Excuse me, got something in my mouth. This is not good. I got a hairball, folks. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They always say the first is the worst, and yeah. Anyway, and I put the link in the chat, and I don't know if in the replay they're actually able to see the chat or not. So I'm just telling everybody there'll be a link on the page with this video for the recording for the people listening in archive. And it's thetarotguild.com/code. And for me, I think the big thing with ethics, my big takeaway with ethics, is creating boundaries, really. So we'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. So Mary, where do you want to start with this? I got the code up here. I have it in giant print because I'm blind. I'm trying to read this thing. And
Yeah, I think, first of all, everybody, if you haven't read it, go back. He's going to have the link up there. You know where to find it on the website, and go ahead and read through it. And really, at any time, if you get in a spot where you're not sure about what it means, if there's a certain thing in there that you don't understand, shoot us an email, shoot us a message. Don't be afraid to ask, because really, what is ethics? It's like, what's right, what's wrong. It's our sense of right and wrong, and so that doesn't mean that we all are born with this inherent knowledge of always what the right thing to do is. We're not. That's why we have codes of ethics and things like that, and yeah, Pamela said it's your moral compass. And I was going to say, yeah, hopefully we all have an internal moral compass, right? But there's some times when we can be sort of challenged and we're not really sure, like, oh, I don't know. Read the code of ethics when that happens, read it before that happens, and develop your own, So when we look at this, I think a lot of it, the first thing on it, Dax, is I recognize that my client's welfare and empowerment is the primary concern, and the next one I think goes along with that. I will empower my clients to make their own choices and decisions. So right off the bat, you already have kind of a sense of like, okay, when I'm giving a reading to someone, is it about me and what I think and my own personal opinions and biases and what I'd like to see happen in the world? No. Already we're saying it's a client. You want the client to know that you're on their side and you see it through that lens of they're in the driver's seat of their life. To me, that's what empowerment is about, is that we have the power of choice. We get to make our own decisions. I don't get a reading from somebody else because I want them to make decisions for me. And I don't get a reading from somebody else that, doesn't support the idea that I'm going to make my own choices and decisions regardless of what they say in the reading. What do you think, Dax?
Well, I like to start everything with tarot. So I drew a card for this. I always draw a card of the day anyway, but I got, let's see if I can put that in there. The death card. Oh no. And this is where I wanted to take the conversation for a second. The difference between doing tarot as a hobby and pulling cards for some friends, at the bar or whatever, as opposed to doing this professionally. And I think a lot of people, I know most of the people that are here live with us now are professional readers or have been professional readers for, more decades than we want to admit. But a lot of people that are going to be watching this in archive, watching the recording, they're about to go professional. Okay. And I feel that the death card is referring to that shift, that something new is wanting to emerge. And that's your professionalism. And most importantly, treating it like a business, where even people that have been professional readers for a long time still don't treat it as a business. And there's something about spiritually related modalities that folks just have difficulty with that. They have difficulty charging what they're worth. A few have difficulty setting up boundaries and ethics. And that's why we're here today, to talk about that. So I thought the death card was really apropos. We need to, there's this new thing that's wanting to emerge for you, for those of you that are new to being a professional reader, having your own business and so forth. Or even if you're working for somebody else's business, like Keen or Ranum or something like that. Of course, you're still an independent business operator, even when you work for a service. And this new thing wants to emerge. And so you have to let go of the old. You have to make that shift from, okay, I was playing around with the cards. It's a fun thing. I did it as a party trick. Now I want to go professional. So that's kind of where I wanted to start, Mary.
Okay.
And we just did. Yay.
Sorry.
Okay, we're done. We can
Take it
end now.
away. Okay, everybody got that? Yeah, look, I think the next one on the list here,
Mhm.
it actually, is really like touching upon what I think is like kind of, it boils down to like the bottom line on this, right? Because the reason that I think ethics are important, there's a lot of reasons, but as a tarot reader, one of the main reasons I think is because there's a lot of things that have happened over over many many years that have really given us a bad rap. There have been readers that have been quite exploitive. Um, and the next two things on our list here, I will not exploit my clients, such as offering unnecessary services. And, the way people have done things that have given tarot readers a bad rap, that have wound up being like, big lawsuits and really gotten people in trouble and really victimized people that didn't deserve it, has a lot to do with that. So that exploitation of, regardless of what your beliefs are, you do a reading for somebody and you say, you know what, I see a dark entity, dark forces all around you. In fact, you're cursed. Well, for only $1,500, you can buy this and we'll remove the curse for you.
I'll light your candle.
Things like, yeah, here is a blessed candle for the bargain price of $1,200, upselling in a way that it has nothing to do with why that person came to you. Now, if you have a client come to you for a tarot reading and say that you work in multiple modalities, like I do Reiki, and say we do the tarot reading, it's a finite thing, they sit down for a period of time, we do the reading, the time's up, it's over, the transaction, the energy exchange, I got paid, whatever you want to call it, that's all complete. And they happen to notice, because I have it listed, like, oh, you do Reiki too. I think I want to try that. I'd like to try a session. How does that work? Or if it's not Reiki, if it's animal communication or something, whatever other modalities you may work in, if they're asking you about it or they're seeking that, then that's fine. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, in the context of a reading, trying to get them to pay more for something else, something that you say you see in the reading. Like, none of our members, I'm sure, would ever do anything like that. But there's been a lot of people out there doing things like that that have kind of, really harmed, I think, the profession. So, and that's a good reason that that's in here. Client confidentiality, keeping confidential the names of your clients and all the information they share and discuss with you. A tarot reader sometimes is the only person that someone who gets a reading ever opens up to. You cannot, you cannot just, I'm thinking of a nice word, but you can't crap all over their trust in that. You can't, take advantage of that in a way of like, oh, you're not going to believe what that one told me. You can't do that. It is like, so that to me, that's ethics. It's wrong. It's like obviously wrong. Um, it may not be what you signed up for. You may think that, okay, I know what kind of readings I want to do. I want the perfect client, who just wants to hear about how they can develop, spiritually, personally, whatever your thing that made you want to read for the public is about. I want to help people. We all say that. I want to help people. And a lot of us have specific ideas about how to go about that. And maybe where we're better versed in some particular aspect. Maybe we think we're really good at relationships, or we think we're good at, helping people with their career choices, that kind of thing. You don't always get the clients that are, what you had in your mind that you were going to get. And so you have to kind of have that respect for them, for the fact that they're confiding in you. So I think that, a lot of that is really, really gets to the center of what ethics is about. What do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
You
Moving
covered
on.
everything. I don't really need to add to that. The next one about treating all my clients with equal respect. That there's a little two-edged thing going on there where, yes, as an independent business owner, especially service oriented, one of the perks is being able to work with whomever you want. But that said, also running a business and being open to the public, it requires us, especially in today's day and age, to respect people's origins, race, religions, gender, ages, sexual preferences, and all of that. So what do you think about that, Mary? It's kind of a two-edged thing where
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, it can be. I think it's going to really depend on the individual reader. But I think you gotta get to this place of like being accepting, being neutral. A lot of times, because I do a lot of my readings over the phone, I'm not seeing the other person, and it's not like, even if I was seeing them in person, that I could tell you what kind of relationship they're in, or what kind of relationship they want, So, I mean, I kind of look at it as sort of like, whatever it is, it's cool. I don't have I don't have a moral stance on somebody's religion or their ethnicity or their sexual preference or, gender.
right. Well, two things I thought about that is one is just awareness, so you're doing, it's different than it was, 50 years ago. So you're doing a reading for somebody and their significant other comes up. And when you're using pronouns, to remember to say, he or she, and I do that all the time, because until I know which gender they date, or who their significant other is, or their husband or wife, or the other 5 people in their multiple marriage thing, because God knows what it could be, right? So so it's just being aware of that, and just watching how you say things, so it's this day and age. The other thing is that popped in my mind, again, thinking of this as a business, is that you can turn the tables on all of this. And if you want to work with a particular type of client, that's actually a good thing, because you can develop a niche. Okay, so I only work with middle-aged women that are seeking their next relationship, or are trying to find their soulmate or return to their soulmate. I'm the the
Right.
romance doctor. I mean, I have crappy examples, I admit it, but you get the gist of what I'm talking about. It's like I only work with pregnant women and do readings for pregnant women.
Right.
I only do it for
Like
executives,
specialized.
or so it's you could actually, if you do want to work with a particular group of people, and I'm not saying, okay, use this as a way to discriminate against others, but a way you can turn this around is you can just niche or niche, however you want to say it, in the French or the English version, into a particular group of people, and that'll actually make you the expert in that field, which is really good in that niche, because you can charge more, you can get higher quality clients, you can de-stress a bit, because you're not, it's not anybody that comes along with $5 that wants a reading. uh, there is something to be said about that. There is. What
But
else?
regardless,
Mhm.
regardless, whenever whoever your clients are, you do want to make sure that they know that you have that respect for them,
Right, right. And
whatever their thing is.
and that, along with everything that we're saying about the code, is why you want to publish your code on your website. And even some people even send it to the person they just booked a reading with. So when the client reads it over, they're much more comfortable. They know that you're going to respect them. They know that you're going to have these certain level of ethics and so forth like that. And that's why you want to do something like that. The next one's about cultivating my abilities and skills, and I will work within the limits of my competence. So that's a twofer right there as well. One is, again, getting back to this, treating it as a business and a profession. And what do people in a profession do? They constantly cultivate their abilities and skills. They constantly learn and develop. They get additional certifications. They get the skills that they need, that they want to add to their practice to help with their work with their clients. And then the other part of this is working within the limits of that competence. You have to know, and this, again, boundaries. This is yet another example of boundaries. You have to know where your boundaries are, which goes along with the one right after that, that I will recommend clients consult a licensed professional for advice of a legal, financial, medical, or psychological nature that I am not qualified to provide. Sure, there are tarot readers that are doctors and lawyers. There are tarot readers that are psychotherapists, like the host of Wisdom of the Soul on our network, Psychic Talk Radio, Janice Fuchs. She's a licensed clinical social worker. She's a licensed psychotherapist, but she also reads cards. So, if you're in that field and have those qualifications, that's a different thing. We're talking about us average people out here that don't have these kind of qualifications. What do you want to say about that, Mary?
Yeah, like on my own page, for my clients to read, I think I say something at the bottom of, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a financial planner, I'm not a CPA, I'm not, there's like all of these things. If you have a urgent need for advice in these areas, contact the appropriate licensed professional. Because it's like, and it's really, it's not just to let the client know not to ask you those kind of questions, which is good, but it's also to kind of let them know that, okay, I'm not stepping out of bounds, like you said, within the limits of your capability, but legal issues can come up with that. There's a lot of advice of different sorts that you cannot give people if you are not a lawyer or if you're not a licensed medical professional. And so you also want to, be aware of where those lines are, because, it gets into this thing, right? Where I always tell my clients, I don't read on health issues. I can't diagnose you. I can't prescribe anything for you. That's not what I do. And yet I'll, I see it all the time where you have, tarot readers and other types of modalities out there where they're really convinced they know more than a doctor does. And so you got to kind of like keep your keep your ego in check a little bit too. You may really believe that spirit, whatever, the dragons, the unicorns are telling you, that this person needs a lung transplant or something crazy. But ethically, don't tell that person that. You don't know. You don't know. And it's just kind of like, we got to kind of leave our ego at the door there and remember we're not, 100% the good at, every profession out there. We're tarot readers and the other things that we do.
So, what you said, putting our ego in check, but also all of this that we're talking about and having a code of ethics works the other way too. It gives us confidence. So, having your own code of ethics is not just for the client, it's for you, because now you've got a framework and you have established boundaries to work with. And there's a level of confidence that you get from having your own code of ethics.
It makes you feel like a pro. It makes you feel like, okay, I'm really a professional now.
Right.
And it also,
oh, I'm sorry.
It's empowering. No, I was just going to say, I think it's a kind of an empowering thing.
And also I feel,
especially if you crafted your own. Go ahead.
Crafted your own. and that's what I was going to say next. And God, we're psychic. Check this out. But the other thing is that, don't just write it 10 years ago, slap it on your website. Read it a couple times a week, because you're going to remind yourself of things that you've forgotten in between readings. You're going to get, little hints from what you put in your own code of ethics, like the very next line, which is, I will nurture my own personal well-being and self-care regimen and will conduct consultations only if my health and energy levels are sufficient. We forget about that, you see. But if we're reading our own code of ethics, a couple, 2-3 times a week, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like, I do feel a little bit run down today. Maybe I should reschedule that session with Jane, today. I'm not feeling quite up to it. Whereas otherwise you would just do it, without thinking about your own personal self-care as well as, what you're providing for the client as well. And that all goes back to professionalism again. Anything you want to say about that, self-care? And
well, yeah, like I said, I write a column for this website, and that's kind of what I wrote about for the January issue. And I was just talking about doing a reading for myself when I was sick. I had COVID, and what I noticed, and I talk about it in that article, you can find it in the articles section, is that it did impact the way that I interpreted the cards. It impacted the way the cards affected me emotionally. So you got to think about that. That was just a reading for myself. Imagine that I was doing a reading for a client and I'm kind of looking at the cards differently. I'm kind of, being affected by them emotionally. I mean, would you want a reading from somebody who wasn't like kind of together? Probably not. Probably not. You would say, oh, gee, that I don't know about that reading, but I know they weren't feeling so good, but I still paid them $60 or whatever. I mean, come on. It's like not going to be good for your business, not let alone not being ethical necessarily.
And that kind of dovetails into the next two lines that go together as well. Do you want to tell everybody about that?
Yes, I have to hold this up to read it. Where are we?
I
Okay.
will respect.
I will, yes, I will respect the client's right and my right to terminate a reading at any point. And if any point I feel I'm unable to complete a reading, I will courteously and tactfully request a reschedule or offer a refund. Yeah, you have a right to terminate the reading. They have a right to terminate a reading. It's not worth, not only is it, not ethical to like get into like a big thing over it, but it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to argue. Who wants to read for somebody who doesn't want the reading to continue?
Mhm.
And who wants to be reading, for someone that you're like, I can't do this, and force yourself to do it? That's not going to be a reading that's worth paying for, I think. What do you think?
Right. And you should, because going into the reading, you might be fine. And then suddenly you feel ill or something like that. It could be something as simple as that, or it could be the context of the reading. And you
Oh,
could,
yeah.
yeah, you could be reading for somebody that you think is just, totally not taking serious what you're talking about, and it's not worth your time. They're wasting your time. That's another thing too. And
Yeah.
all of this goes back to, again, running your own business. It's your business. You have the right to do what you want. But then also the professional side of it, where you still do it tactfully,
Yeah.
and depending on the circumstances, offer to reschedule, or if it's somebody that you just you need to book with a different reader, I'm going to give you a refund.
Yeah, totally. And it happens, it's like, it's weird. Sometimes it can seem like it's tied to how much you're charging for a reading. And when you're starting out, sometimes you charge a really small amount. And
Oh,
there's
that reminds
people
me.
that,
Mhm.
well, well, here's what happened to me when I started out working for a service. I thought, okay, all these other people, these thousands of readers on the service have been doing this for thousands of years. Here I come along. I can't charge anywhere near what they're charging. Maybe if I charge like 50 cents a minute, somebody will call me. I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm trying to build up my, feedback profile, whatever. And what happens is when you charge that cheaply, you get all the perverts, right? You get the perverts and they're calling you for reading. They're really calling you for like a sexual type of reading, and like you want to terminate that so quickly. You're like, you want to run away from that so quickly and you want to hang up, and you got to know that you have a right to do that, that you don't have to be abused, because it doesn't have to be like the perverts. It can just be people that try to really, bash readers. I don't know how much it happens to people that aren't working on a service, that are doing their own business. It hasn't happened to me, what I call reading in the wild, but on a service, you have people that have a reputation for just looking around, seeing who the new readers are, and calling them up, getting a reading with them, and just being like really rude, awful, just so they can leave you a really lousy reading,
Yeah.
feedback. and they're called bashers.
They
So
don't have
there's
anything
all
better to
kinds of
do with their
reasons.
time and money, apparently.
Yeah, and if you're charging really little amount,
Mhm.
you're going to get a lot of them, because it's like, hey, that's fun to spend $5 on doing that to a reader.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
you got to watch out for a lot of different situations like that.
but also it goes the
Go ahead.
opposite direction too, because if you're seeing private clients, not on a service, and you're charging $150 an hour, let's say, especially if it's a new business, if you're new, you might feel obligated because of that. And
Ah,
you shouldn't feel obligated. You can reschedule. The person should understand, and don't be afraid to give the refund either. When you're first starting out, and the amounts, if you're charging a significant amount, there's a fear almost of losing out on that $150, but it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
yeah.
And you get a better, depending on the circumstances with the individual, you'll get a better reputation by being willing to reschedule or to issue a refund, and I just feel a lot of people are afraid to. It doesn't have to be just the missing out on the money thing. It could also be the aspect of, well, they paid and we scheduled, and I'm just going to force myself through this reading because they're paying $150 or $300 or whatever rate you're
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
And then the next one, I feel like, I don't know
This
how
one has
many.
some caveats. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So I will only read for people I have permission to read for, and will not attempt to read for unwitting third parties. I feel like
Psychic,
you and
keeping
I
it
both
coming.
probably, yeah, we've been in so many discussions over the years with our tarot people about what exactly constitutes a third party reading. Is it,
Mhm.
is it
It's
reading for
hard.
a celebrity? Did they ask for a reading? But you look in the newspaper or online, you see everybody writing about their astrology profile,
Mhm.
or they pulled tarot cards on that celebrity. Are they fair game just because they're famous? Don't we all have people in our
I
lives?
say yes,
What
but
kind
that's
of,
me.
yeah, well, what kind of, what do we really mean by third party?
Mhm.
Does it mean that somebody can't come to you and say, hey, I'm really worried about my marriage. Can you take a look at that? And we say, no, sorry, there's a third party involved in that marriage, so I can't help you there. We'd be able to help nobody with anything, because
Yeah.
they have coworkers, they have relationships, they have family members, all of it, So what do you think, Dax? How do we, how do we define it? What do we want to draw out about this
Well,
concept?
it seems so cut and dry for me in the beginning, in the
Mhm.
old days, and then I shifted to the other camp, like you just said, it's like, well, then how do you even, 90% of the time they're asking you something about someone else, does he love me?
Right.
Is he going to marry me? Um, but then I shifted back again, and then I shifted, and now I'm at the point where it's case by case scenario.
Yeah.
If I can reword it, so we're looking at the empowerment of the client in front of me versus what's going on with the other person, I try
Yeah.
to do it that way. I don't always succeed, but I try anyway. You know, I
I always,
this might be something you want to write out of your version of your code, because maybe that's
yeah.
99% of what you do is you're a relationship reader, and it's not always both parties of the couple are there with you, so you have to, but I think there are ways to make it about the person getting the reading as opposed to the other party.
Yeah.
I
What
always
I
throw
always
out
do. Oh, go ahead.
psychology and life coaching questions like, so how do you feel about that? And then I pull some cards, and I'm not looking at what's going on with her husband, Joe, or her, Uncle Fred, or, whatever. I'm bringing it back to her as much as I possibly can, but yeah, I get clients asking me, I'm just not sure how he feels. And, this is really difficult for me, and I need to know something, so yeah, it,
Yeah.
it's a
And
tough one.
it is. I always approach it one. I have and sometimes, it depends on how we're oriented with our tarot practice, what we believe that we're doing, how we approach it. First of all, I don't consider myself ever a tarot spy or a tarot peeping
I
tom.
always thought you
You know,
were. Come on.
peeping,
You're on those
peeping.
reading services. You're on Keen, and they're asking you those questions, and you're like, well, let me see what
Peeping.
you're doing.
Let me see what I can see. To my
He is
secret
with that
super
woman at that
spy.
hotel down the street. I can see it right now.
I can see it now. Exactly. But I mean, I go into it with the idea of one, setting boundaries. I set energetic boundaries before I ever read. And some people might know what I'm talking about. Some people might not know what I'm talking about with that. But I don't want any information coming through in any reading that is going to be anything other than what is in the client's best interest and their highest good. And with third party ish questions that they're asking me about, coworker, a lot of times coworker relationships come up,
Mm-hmm.
I ask the question from the standpoint of what does a client need to know about that relationship right now? It's not like what the other person is doing, perhaps, or what they're going to do, but it's like, what do you need to know? How do you move through that relationship? How can you kind of get back to where you have maybe at least a sense of at least get to neutral with the person, if it's not, if you can't get to harmony with them, because some relationships, especially in the workplace, yeah, you may never like some of the people you work with, and they may not like you either. But you don't have to be actively trying to undermine or harm each other. So I look at it from that point of like, what does a client need to know about the relationship or the interaction with somebody else, be it a neighbor or a lover or whatever, that's going to help them to navigate that difficult relationship? So that's what I do about third parties.
Okay.
I know. I'm like blah 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 blah.
What
I'm
we'll
like, can
do
I
is,
just talk for like an hour?
after we're done here and we go to the Q&A and tell everybody to unmute, we'll ask what everybody else is thinking about this, but let's get through this real quick and then we'll go to Q&A. What's the next one?
I will conduct myself in a manner that promotes public confidence in the role of professional tarot readers.
And that goes with the next one too, kind of.
Which is, yeah, you'll love this one, guys. I will never undermine the work of fellow professional readers nor publicly defame them. So, yeah, you don't want to be saying like, well, have you looked at so-and-so's TikTok, Facebook, whatever, YouTube readings? They're such a liar. You don't want to do that because you look bad doing it. You look like you're jelly. You look like you're worried about the competition, that you have a lack mentality, as Dax would say. It's never good look for you anyways. And it does go hand in hand with conducting yourself in that manner. What do you think on it, Dax? Throwing shade.
Oh, and for most of us here are aware, but for those that are not aware, um, the the greater tarot community is actually kind of known for this. There's been some backstabbing and things going on over the years, and it reaches the highest levels with people with huge followings, and they just continuously act unprofessional, and they put their own foot in their own mouth, and they look ridiculous and unprofessional because of how they're treating other tarot professionals. It's just not worth it to, your reputation and your following and the way you're going to come across to people.
Yeah.
It does irreparable harm, and you don't want to engage in that at all.
Yeah.
And the big thing is that a rising tide lifts all boats. And if you're new, you haven't heard me say that 1,000 times over the last 18 years, but that's Dax's go-to tagline, because the whole idea of the Tarot Guild and, the tarot community in general is that when the more any individual reader, professional, author, decorator, you name it, does better, the more the rest of us do better. We kind of ride that rising tide that lifts us all up, and we should be promoting each other. And that's what I want to see really happen here in 2022 with the Guild, is more of that, where we're promoting each other's work and, liking, sharing, and commenting on our fellow readers' posts. And I don't care how much you don't like the person, just don't engage if it comes to that, don't engage, you don't have to like, comment, or share, but, don't on purpose publicly defame somebody else, and look for ways to come across as professional as you can, because it lifts the appearance of the entire industry. One of the aspects of this that's in the same genre, Mary, is over the last, say, the tarot community being public the last 10 or 15 years, where we've had the ability to communicate online, and there's always been a smaller but loud contingent against certification in the tarot, and I've always seen certification as uplifting the profession. The general public sees more and more of that, then it just lifts all of our reputations, and I never got, well, I understood where they were coming from and why they had qualms about certification, but okay, that's fine. You don't have to do it. No one's saying you have to do it,
Right.
And so I never understood, why would you be against the people that want the certificate and have their own reasons for that? It might not even be for their clients. It might be for their own personal gratification, for their own personal development and confidence building, that they want to go through a process and get certified, and also be able to present that along with their code of ethics, because that's what we're talking about, to their clients. Here's my certifications. Here, I'm a certified life coach, a certified tarot reader through the Tarot Guild. And here's my code of ethics that I work by. It just makes you look more, professional. And this goes back to that thing about those lines about promoting public confidence, by lifting the
Yeah,
profession and by not undermining the work of others. If somebody else wants to get certified, don't say anything about it. You know, if you don't want to get certified, don't get certified.
exactly. Exactly. It's like, I don't know. The way I took that when I would hear things like that is that they don't want that they didn't want to have to develop their own program and everything. So if they
Mm.
just like put it down, it saves them all the work from doing that, that kind of thing. But what's really funny is sometimes we can have a really what do I want to say, like sort of insular view where we're only seeing our community, we're seeing the issues that come up, we're seeing the back in the day, and probably even now with the newer generation, like on TikTok and other things. I mean, you'd see some real crazy flame wars throw up between readers, and what's really kind of funny, when I first entered into the tarot community, there was a lot of that going on, you know, um, not you, but we saw it in the larger community, and it really stunned me because I was coming from Hollywood, and I was like, oh, I thought. I thought these were the people that were spiritually evolved or whatever. Oh, wow. It's like Peyton Place here, you know? And I talked to some of my friends that still work in like other industries, and they'll be like, wow, I didn't think that people that were spiritual or whatever would be having those kind of issues. So it's not just what's happening in the community, but it really truly is how all of us look, to the outside world, because we're talking about working with tarot and all of, a lot of times astrology goes with that, Kabbalah goes with that, Hermetics goes with that, esotericism, spirituality, all of these different things, all these big lofty ideas. And we're, you know, evolved. We are, more, oh, we're more spiritually advanced. I'm not saying that we are, but I'm saying that there's a lot of people in our profession that are giving off that vibe. So when you see like the petty infighting or the name calling or stuff like that going on, or throwing shade at certification or something else that someone else is doing that you don't want to spend the time doing,
Mm-hmm.
it really looks like we're not evolved at all. And
Right.
I don't like that reflection on the industry I work in,
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is just one of those topics that we could talk about for another hour, but we don't have that time. So
Totally. Yeah. Moving along.
moving along. So basically, what we've all, what we've discussed so far, and, all the points preceding kind of dovetails into this next line. Everything that, from what's in the code of ethics, and also publishing that code on your website or what have you, or your page on the Tarot Guild website, which is fully customizable. Everybody, have you set up your page on your own personal page there, your profile, and giving it out to your clients, and so forth. And that is the next line, which is, I will accurately communicate the terms by which my services are offered. Now, this goes to, again, not just professionalism, but remember the death card that I had in the beginning. You're turning a corner here. You're letting some practices and things go, and something new is emerging, which is you're treating this as a business, and for it to become a business versus, say, a hobby or something you're doing on the side. Now, if you only ever want to do it as a hobby, that's perfectly fine. But we're doing the code here and the ethics aimed primarily at professional readers that are going to do this for a living. And putting out there what your qualifications are, this code of ethics, so people know your boundaries and your framework, availability, what your availability is, your confidentiality, in fact, every website, regardless of what they do, has to publish that now, fees, what are your fees? Don't be nebulous about all this, just have the specifics readily available. Your cancellation policy, make that very clear what your cancellation policy is. And any other significant matters, business, legal, or otherwise, that you need to include. In some jurisdictions, you're required to put for entertainment only, depending on the jurisdiction. There are a handful of jurisdictions where you actually have to, like a massage therapist, go down City Hall, get a license, get fingerprinted, get a license to operate, as a tarot reader. That actually exists in some places. Off the top of my head, San Francisco, you have to do that. So that's what this line is talking about. And again, bringing it back to that, start thinking of it as a business, and you should have everything in black and white for everybody. What do you think, Mary?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, again, all of that's going to be really important. And to the degree that you can, accurately describe your services, so you start getting clients that are looking for the things that you are good at, that you want to provide, the kind of readings you want to do.
Mhm.
I think that all of that goes hand in hand. Yeah.
Right. And what might help some folks out is, in addition to the code of ethics, there's our terms of service at the Guild. And I'm just talking about using it as a reference for yourself. So you go to any page on the Tarot Guild website and scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see terms of service. You'll see a link. It'll take you to the page, and it's quite lengthy, because in today's litigious day and age, you have to have every I dotted and every T crossed. Okay. So our terms of service, a lot of them are going to fit also an individual practitioner and what you want to put on your website. You want to have, God, my mind's blanking here. Let me bring it up myself so I say the right thing here. Terms of service. So you want to have your policies written out, all the things we just talked about in black and white, and also you need to state your disclaimers, and that you're not going to take responsibility for anything anybody does with the information that you give them. And like I said, depending on the jurisdiction, right after that is where you would put this is for entertainment only, or however you want to word that. And that also leads into, I think, excuse me, I have to go back to the terms of service. I think that goes into the next ones too.
But
go ahead. What else do you want to say about that?
yeah, well, I think it goes into the last one. I only provide services to individuals over the age of 18.
Mhm.
I think that would kind of feed into the policies and the terms of service and all of that. And again, I look at that as sort of like, it's a legal thing more than anything else.
CYOA.
I know a lot of people, yeah, cover your butt. And now, it's also something that you're going to have to decide. I will say this, that I did, hopefully I'll get to again, but I used to have a booth at like psychic fairs, right? And sometimes when you're in that environment of like a fair or an expo or something like that, you'll have a kid come up to your table. And around here, it was like, a 15, a 16-year-old coming up wanting a tarot reading with me or an angel card reading with me,
Mhm.
and their parents being right there with them. And
Right.
like, I don't mind that. I feel like parental consent is really like the key to this 18 over under kind of thing. If you're working for a website or if you're doing it online, you probably,
That's already
probably
built
just want to
into it.
stick. Yeah, it's already built into it usually. Like they have to be 18 to sign up. Then you should probably go with that anyways. But if it's like the parents are like, yeah, little Susie wants an angel card reading, I'm not going to turn down little Susie with her mom right there. I mean, what am I, a monster? No.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know,
I'll take it a step further and say that it depends on the reader. There are certain circumstances. For instance, going back to the whole thing about finding a niche and being the expert in that area. So maybe
yeah,
you are the reader that helps parents with their children and do readings with them, and they're all there. Maybe you are more of a party reader, you know,
mhm,
and so, you're doing readings at the high school prom, all of which are not necessarily over 18. Um, yes, and there's the fairs and all that kind of thing, but I'm talking more where you're entering into the contractual agreement with the adult, with the parent.
yeah,
Providing the service to someone under 18 is not what's illegal. What's illegal is if they walk up without their parent and hand you $5, that's illegal. And most people don't realize that.
yeah,
An exchange of money is entering into a contractual agreement. You can only enter into contractual agreements with someone who's 18 or older. That's how it works. So that's
yeah,
why you always see all the time, your parents or have an adult present, and why an adult has to sign for that big thing you just ordered on Amazon when they knock at the door to deliver it, because under 18, they can't sign for something because their signature is not valid for nothing. It's not,
yeah,
they're not able to sign a contract, and signing and accepting a package even is a contract. Everything's a contract.
sure.
Basically everything's a contract. Just think of it that way. So again, it goes back to, you got to start thinking of this. I'm running a business. What are the rules? So I just avoid the whole thing and only read for people over 18. But there's going to be readers that are going to have certain niches. They're the person that shows up at the birthday party, and there's the jumper balloon thingy, and there's the clown guy
Yeah,
that comes and makes the balloons, and then there's the tarot reader, because
yeah,
that family just happens to be in that and they think it's cool, so they hire you to come in. But it's the parents that are hiring you to come in.
right. That's who you have the
Yeah.
contract with.
And there's
Yeah,
chaperones and there's people there. Same thing, you're at the prom, and there's people that are anywhere from 16, 17, and maybe they are 18 or older, but most of them are going to be 17, maybe 16 even, graduating in a year early. But there's chaperones. And so
yeah,
you're entering into the contract with the school, and you're being hired to come in and provide a service, and if some of the people are underage, that's fine. It's
yeah,
it's not the giving the service, it's the contract.
yeah. And then the last one is really kind of one of my favorite ones, because I feel like if you do enough readings, if you do thousands of readings, there's going to be times where you really got to think about this one. I will refrain from judgment, criticism, and personal bias during consultations.
Mhm.
Now, there are going to be times, and there have been so many times to me where I've been doing a reading for someone, and they have asked me about things I would have never considered in my life. I would have never thought of it. I wouldn't even think people did things like that. I didn't even know about it. Whatever. It doesn't impact me during a reading, because the great thing is we're doing tarot readings. We have the cards. It's not about what I think or what my judgment is or my opinion, or if I'm just like, oh, I can't believe somebody's into that. What do the cards say? If you stick with the cards, you
Mm.
can easily get through that, because it's so unbiased. It's so neutral, right?
I
And
love
then
that.
maybe after the reading is over, you might even like think about it in your head, like, wow, I never even heard of that.
Mhm.
you know, that's a thing people do. You can, we're all human, but you gotta be like right there with the client, with the cards. I'm talking about this at the end of February in a workshop I'm doing, calling, setting the stage for readings. But you want to be neutral, in the zone, and just read the cards.
Mhm.
You can put all your, you know, judgment and bias and whatever. We all have, judgments
Yeah.
and biases and everything. But it's not necessary to bring that into a reading at all. And it's not fair to the client.
And you wait till you get
What do you
off
think?
camera with the client and then you roll your eyes. It's that
Yeah,
simple,
like,
So I make the analogy to an artist, to an actor on stage, and you keep smiling until you get behind the curtain, and then you puke. Okay, you don't do it
yeah.
on stage. You you just keep smiling.
Right.
And you know. Uh, Practice, maybe have a friend throw out the craziest possible question in a sentence, and you practice keeping a straight face. Well, the card
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
and just do not react. Do not react here.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, wait till you're behind
Yeah.
the curtain, but yeah,
Just shuffle through it. Shuffle through it.
that's the meaning of professionalism, acting as
Yeah.
if.
There you go.
Yeah. So we already covered one of the things I wanted to cover at the end here, which is bringing it back to, you know how I said, for me, the biggest takeaway is to establish your boundaries and so forth.
Mm.
And we did the whole one about, is it ever appropriate to read about third parties not present in a session? And I don't think we ever got a conclusive answer, but we're going to ask our gallery here to tell us what we're supposed to do,
Yeah.
because I'm still, 35 years later trying to figure out. Anyway, but some other interesting things have come up, some of them in our Facebook group, where people have asked
Oh,
really
yeah.
interesting questions, like one that came up, I think it was a month or two ago, was, how frequently should I read for a client? And this is part
Mm.
of how you're approaching your business and your clients ethically, because it's not ethical, I don't think, in my view, to be milking a client to death and they want a reading every day or every other day or twice a week. Even that's too much. Where you set the boundary, well, you're going to have to figure that out. I know a lot of readers that will only do a reading with a recurring client once every 6 months. It takes that long for whatever you discuss and for whatever came up in the cards for the timelines to converge and for the future to happen and for there to be some sort of resolution that would lead to a new question that you could give an answer to, you see. Whereas if we're just reading every day or even once a week, what we're doing is we're rehashing the same thing. And tarot hates this, by the way. Tarot will mess with you. The deck does not like when you ask the same question over and over again. It's like, Einstein's definition of insanity, saying the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, this is the same thing. It's asking the same question over and over again because you didn't like the answer last time. Okay. So what's your thoughts on that, Mary? Like, how frequently should you read for a client? What's your code of ethics?
Oh, it depends on the client. If it's the same question over and over and over again, no. No. It's something I run into a lot, and I feel like I've handled it in a variety of different ways. I don't know, because I do most of my readings again on a psychic hotline, I guess you could call it, because I don't know who's calling me, you know. And I have.
That's harder.
It's harder because you don't know that they're calling you back. You can do a reading with them and say, look, go through this. This is what the cards say. This is what we're looking at, over the next few months. This looks like what's ahead of you. Work through that and, come back in like 3 or 4 months and we can check in on it again, something like that, right? If they then call me the next day, right, with the same thing, again, respecting everything else that we went through, you have to be kind, but sometimes because people go to tarot readers often when they really should be going to a psychologist, and you can recommend they go to a psychologist. We talked about seeking the professional, that would be better suited for them. They won't do it. And they want you to do it instead. They want you to serve that role. And the good thing, and it's not like I ever feel great about it, but the good thing about working on a service is I can block people so I don't have to read for them again. If they're not going to respect my boundaries, then I've got to help them by not doing readings for them anymore.
Right.
And it's tougher. I think it's really easy the way some of these services, at least the one I work on, is easy because you can block the client. It's like, boom, that's it. They don't call you again. And if they try to, create another profile and try to come around that, they identify it the service identifies that pretty quickly and bounces them. So there's that. You got you can have like a bouncer, in that way. But clients that I've had that come up with that I did outside of the service as private clients, I've only had that come up once, and I had to just flat out level with them and say, look, I am not being mean here. I don't want to be mean. I understand this is really important to you, but there's nothing else I can tell you at this time. You already had your reading. Go forth and deal with it. Yes. It's not fun. It never is. But what I did that really did help me, though, with the more difficult things like this is that because I do Reiki, in Reiki, we have what we call the 5 precepts, right? And it's almost like a vow. I don't use them every day, but any day that I'm doing Reiki, that's like I start out with them and I stick to them. And I think of the code of ethics as the same thing. It's like,
just for today.
Yeah. Well, because I do my readings mostly at night, I said just for tonight, I will not worry about clients. I will not worry my clients. I will not anger clients. I will not get angry at clients. And I'm grateful. I will be grateful for my clients. I will be honest with my clients, and I will be kind to my clients. So if you can just, like, for me, it's like, I think of it that way, always with kindness, you know?
Mm,
Kindness is, it doesn't cost us anything to be kind and compassionate. Crazy clients, the people we would call crazy clients,
mhm.
they're not like that because they're in a great place. Okay. So you got to have some compassion for that. It's not worth it to escalate the emotion and get angry. It's not worth it to do readings that are going to cause them to go into this fear
Mhm.
position either. And if we're just honest with them by telling them what the cards say, and honest with them about what we can actually do and what we do when we do readings for them, I think that goes a long way to helping us be ethical readers.
Mhm. And we can also, mitigate things by uh, just wording it the right way, and, keeping in with being professional. But as we're and this, you're going to do the workshop on setting the stage. We need another workshop on ending the reading, which is actually, I think it's in our list of things to do. I think, who was it? It might
The
have been,
ever-growing list.
Corby. It might have been one of our tarot masters, Corby Mitley, that suggested that,
Yeah,
how to end it the right way, and that leads into all
yeah,
different things, like not letting it drag on, blah blah blah, but also by phrasing it, so, I don't know how to word it here, but it would depend on the circumstances. But so, go forward with that information, and we can revisit this in a month or so if you have additional questions come up, or however it resolves. And and that way
yeah,
you're telling them that you're not expecting to hear from them for a month
yeah,
without telling them, don't call me for a month. It's just being professional about it, and
yeah,
just it goes back to that, how do you word it kindly, like you were saying, kind of thing. I mean, you could have a hard and fast rule and write it right into your code of ethics, or write it into your materials, that along with your fees and everything
sure.
else that you hand out. I don't do that, only because it's very situational. I think you said that in the beginning. It depends on the client. Because, for instance, I
Yeah,
have a client that there's been times where I saw them fairly regularly, maybe 3 times in a 2.5 week period, or something like that. But they had a different question every time.
yeah,
And whatever we worked
yeah,
on, what was going on with that situation resolved in a certain way, and then they had new questions. And then after that, it resolved in a certain way, and then they had another question. And this person knew, because they were a professional tarot reader, and I read a lot more for professional readers than I
yeah,
read for anybody else. And so they already knew, you don't keep asking tarot
yeah,
the same question over and over again. So it's very situational. It depends on the client and what they're asking. If they ask about their
yeah,
marriage, and then next week want to book you to talk about their mother-in-law, that's a different issue, right? And now we're talking
yeah.
about third parties again. We're back to the third parties. Oh my God. Anyway, but so there you go, folks. That's, I think we pretty much covered it. And any
I
last
think
things
so.
before we do like a quick Q&A here? We're kind of gone over. This was only supposed to take 35 minutes, but we're an hour in. So um or an hour and a half in, or something like that. It's just insane. It was not supposed to go this long. But
Right.
we can open it up, and if people want to unmute their mics, and if they, have taken notes, and you haven't
Yeah.
anything you want to throw out there, how you handle third party, any of these things. Who's game?
Yeah.
Who wants to say something?
Sharona first.
Go ahead, Pam. Your mic's
What?
hot.
Oh, is it? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe bad. Generally after, maybe bad. When I'm wrapping up a reading, first of all, I stop several times during the whole thing and just check in. Are you still with me? Do you have any questions? But when it comes to the end of it, I always tell them, okay, we've got about 5 minutes left. Did you miss anything? Do you need any clarification? Do you have any questions?
Mm.
And generally they'll sit there with kind of a blank look for a while and they'll say, no, okay. And then I'll tell them, okay, this should carry you through the next, say, 4 to 5 months. And if you're not clear on something, go back and listen to the recording. I always record them. And I've never, ever, ever had somebody call me the next week or so and say, oh, I didn't get, yes, you did. Read it, listen to your recording. And as far as ending, like if somebody wants to end a reading, I think the most interesting one I ever had, this gentleman came in and he was roughly about my age, maybe a few years younger, 2 meters tall, like 6'6", and looked like a Nordic god. I swear,
Wow.
he just good looking.
Wow.
And he sits down and he starts telling me about this. He says, I just need some clarification. I've never done this before. Could you please have a look at my business situation? And so I got to looking at it and wow, there were a few things that he really needed to pay attention to. So I brought them up and he sat through the whole hour and didn't say a word. He would just nod every once in a while because I'd ask him, And when it was all finished, I gave him my little wrap up. Okay, if you have any questions, now would be a good time to ask. And this should take you through. And I'm looking at the timeline because there were timing cards in there. And I said, about 3 months. I said, is there anything else you would like to know? He shook his head. He reached in his pocket, and I only charged $50 for it way back then for a reading. He lays $100 bill down. He stands up, leans across the table, takes my face in his hands, kisses me, and walked out. Like, get back here.
I'm so glad I do this over Zoom or Skype. So that
no, it was great. It was a good kisser. I gotta get that. But I mean, I've read for Darth Vader.
But it was a good one.
Yes. And Darth Vader, a guy dressed as Darth Vader. And I read for a Mennonite goat farmer once who traded me a baby goat for a tarot reading. So yeah, I needed a goat. So I mean, there's all kinds of
adorable.
ways. You just have to be flexible.
Exchange of energy,
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. What about you, Sharona? Is your mic on?
Yes, my mic is on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sound great.
Hi, Sharona.
Good to see you.
Hi. I just took some notes. One of the things that I always do that I think is important in the reading is before I begin, I create sacred space. And then when the reading is over, I close the sacred space. It just kind of sets the stage for everything. And the other thing that I've always done is I have an intake form that I require if someone is coming to see me, or even I do it even for like if I'm going to do a party, because I used to do a lot of parties and psychic fairs. It's kind of an agreement, but also they know something about me and I know something about them. And generally, as far as payment, I usually require payment before we begin the reading, simply because a lot of times after a reading, I forget, I've entered into sacred space. So that's always taken care of at the beginning, whether it's a party or a psychic fair or even a private reading. And as far as for how often I do a reading, I set the space for that. So it's going to be usually different, but I'll say if this has answered all your questions, if you want to meet with me, I usually say, set a date, say within like the cycle of a full moon. But I kind of establish that when I, end or, when everything is over. So that, it's just like a matter of being very, very clear. The reason that I do usually require advanced reading is up until COVID, I used to do it at an office. So I was paying in advance for that space to do a reading. But as far as spaces, if you do meet with someone one-on-one, I do urge people to be very careful and very professional about it. That's why I always would have a space to meet at, and there was another adult there with me. Just to set those safety boundaries.
Yeah, I used to read in coffee houses, and I liked that mostly because I could get my mocha, but I would buy the client a latte, even though they're hiring me and paying. I mean, it's like a flow of energy thing, and the other factor was that there was people all around me.
Yeah, you have to be
so I don't
careful.
have to worry about safety. And then on top of that, of course, that you got additional clients from doing it that way.
Yeah. And that's I love what you said about setting sacred space. That's another part of, for me, of setting the stage before you do readings. I don't think we talk about it enough. So I love that you brought it up, because it's so much about how we approach just doing a reading, that it really helps us to, if we have that kind of all set up, our sacred spaces set, our energetic boundaries, if you like as well, that can help a lot.
Even on the phone, set up, your sacred space, and it just kind of makes it because I like to say what I'm doing is spiritual counseling. So I had training as a minister. So I almost think of when I do, a private reading like that, I am a minister, I am ministering to this person and their spiritual needs.
By the way,
I love that.
Is anybody else getting a Brady Bunch feel here with these when you're on Zoom with these cameras this way? I don't know how you guys have yours set up, but I have mine in gallery view. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like the Brady Bunch. What is
It
up?
looks like Hollywood Squares by me. You're all in like squares.
Oh, I found out something else cool. I discovered that I can mute my mic, and all I have to do is push the space bar down and it unmutes it temporarily. I can talk, and then I just let go of the space bar and it remutes me real quick. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to use that all the time now, because I never know if it's noisy back in the house here or something like that, so it's like, wow, I'm learning stuff every day here on this, doing these Zoom things. And we even use this Zoom to do our to stream to our lives on the Facebook group, which is every Tuesday and Saturday now. I just wanted to put a little plug in for that. Anybody else got any pearls of wisdom or questions? Or
actually, I was going to say too, the very first time that I released the Steel Wizard, way back when, I had to write the book in 2003 because a lot of reasons. Anyway, one of the first things I did when I sat down and wrote the first companion book was wrote down a very brief ethics, like to start the whole thing. Like, so when you open the companion book, one of the first things you see is this code of ethics.
Oh, that's great.
And it made sense to me. I mean, I wanted people to know, and mine's a really condensed version of yours. I mean, it's not nearly as lengthy, but I also then I kind of tweaked it for the Wizard's Pets. And then when I did the Eternal Seeker, that I tweaked it again for the Oracle, for Oracle readings. And when the dust settled and the air cleared, and I rewrote the entire companion book for the 3rd edition of the Steel Wizard, I did it again. I mean, this is something that I believe is really important to anybody who's, and these books were all written for, well, the first chapter in this one is what is tarot. I mean, these were written for, it's called the ABCs. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And when I wrote the first one, I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing, and sent it to my printer, my computer crashed. And I was having trouble getting my borrowed computer to hold the formatting for it. So he did it. And he sent it back to me the same day I got my new computer and sent it to him. And he said, I read your book. I have a working knowledge of tarot. We're going to print this in color. And I went, okay. Today, that company, in fact, after he got done with this deal with it, they opened an entire tarot division. And to this day, they have printed hundreds of decks, hundreds of them for
Wow.
different people.
Oh,
They have it opened up, they even expanded their business and everything. So there's a card printing company out there that does beautiful work, beautiful work in the US. They don't print in China. They used to, they had to quit. But the tarot ethics, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. That's it. It covers here to here. And you know, you always have the right to practice your own free will and make your own choices. That's number one. You're entitled to the full attention of your reader. You're entitled to ask questions during the reading to gain further clarification. You're entitled to full and complete answers to the questions covered in your reading. Your reading is private, confidential, and cannot be shared without your permission. Life is about choices. Your reading should explore any and all options for you. And the last one, this is my favorite. Tarot readers do not make your decisions for you and recommend that you seek competent legal, medical, or financial advice from a qualified person. That's
perfect.
my code of ethics.
Yeah, I was
Okay?
having
I love
trouble
that.
hearing you a little bit there because it seems depending
talk
on
fast.
how you're facing, the mic is not picking you up all the time there. But what
Well,
you
I
just
think
said dovetails nicely into something else we were going to bring up, Mary, was about tweaking the code of ethics. And I want to start off by saying, because, you know, if you're going to ask me how have I tweaked it, I haven't. And there's a good reason for that. It's because I wrote it along with other people. And, you know, it's developed through the years, and everything that I would add or tweak to a code of ethics has been done in the Tarot Guild Code of Ethics. So I don't need to tweak it at all. And people are more than welcome to print it out and put it on their website and maybe change some wording. Maybe you prefer it to sound more eloquent or, you know, something like that, but you're more than welcome to take the code because that's what I use. I just, you know, copy paste. This is what I use. But if anybody has made any tweaks, you know, that actually has used our code of ethics, but has made some tweaks, you know, let us know. Mary, I think you were going to say something about that. You brought it up in the green room before we came on, that you wanted to talk about that, about tweaking the, you know, what have you made any changes or?
Well, I did just for my own, I did, you know, and it was just kind of, here's the thing, not to get all magical on everybody or anything, but I felt that it would mean more to me and have a certain, if I made it my own, you know, then I felt like I was really adopting it. If I would look at that and, you know, I looked at it and there were certain things, you know, where we talk about the empowerment of the client. Well, you know, that's not a word I would use a lot, you know, and for it to be meaningful to me, I'm like, you are in the driver's seat of your life. I am here to tell you what I see in the cards, given the path that you're on and the moment in time that we're at, what I see ahead of you, so that you can make the choices that are going to lead you in the direction that you want to go, you know, to help create the life that, you know, create the future. I don't know if anybody could read that up there, create the future that you want. And so it's not like I took the Tarot Guild Code of Ethics and said, oh, okay, well, I need to rewrite this whole thing. It was like I wanted to make it my own because I felt like that had more meaning for me.
That gives me a
And,
couple ideas.
there was like a sense of empowerment
Yeah.
in doing it that way.
Well, here's a couple of things. One, the way the code looks in print on the Tarot Guild website, yeah, it's going to look like legalese. Because in order to make something universal for all our members, we couldn't put in the embellishments and the way that people would make it their own with their own language and everything. We had to be very legalese sounding. So one way to quote unquote tweak it is just to take the thing, read each line and think to yourself, what does that mean really? What is that conveying, and how would I personally say it, and then write it down in your words. Another way of doing it though is to create a preamble. So you just leave the code the way it is, and above it you get into the more flowery language that I'm here to blah 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 with my client and blah 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 blah. I can't even tell you, because I am not the person to write eloquent. It's like, that's why it reads legalese, because that's how I talk and write. It's like black and white to me. It's like, this is what it means.
Like I think it reads perfectly the way that it is, but I felt like I had to to like really adopt it, to really feel it, for it to really have meaning to me, because I think words have power. And I had to kind of go through that process. I feel that it was more important than me just well, that's exactly what it was. It's like, I'm stepping into this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a professional now. I'm going to be a professional tarot reader. I have a code of ethics. Well, I have the Tarot Guild's code of ethics. What's going to make it mine? What's going to make me feel like I'm embodying that, And so like rewriting the Reiki precepts was a part of it, because I'm like, okay, this is it. Sharona brought up creating sacred space, and I'm a big, I do that before I go online, before I make myself available for people to call me, and I close it down at the end. I'll talk about that at the end of February, but I kind of looked at it is that way. It's like, I'm going to embody this, I'm not going to just print something off and put it on my wall. And I feel like that made me feel like a professional more. I think it helped my confidence level. I think it made me feel like I had a mission now to give good tarot readings, to be an ethical reader. It's like a little mind thing, too, maybe, or magic. I think it's kind of magical to do that.
Well, thinking on that, takes me back to that death card and what I was talking about. Something new wants to emerge, and maybe this is the class assignment. Everybody rewrite the code of ethics into their own words and make it their own. And there might be parts you drop, like you may work with people under 18, or there might be different things you change, but the main thing is the wording of it, so it sounds like this is how I would say something versus the way it's written. So what I would say to everybody is, if you're the kind of person like me and you just want to copy and paste it onto your website, go for it. There's no need to change it. It's 18 years in the making. We've been working on it since 2004. It's ready to go. It's golden. If you're the kind of person also like me, where I'm not good at rewriting what someone else wrote into my own words. And you just want to write a preamble, write your own preamble in your own words that comes right before your code of ethics, which you copied and pasted from the Tarot Guild. Or 3, go ahead and rewrite the whole thing. Now, there is something to be said, however, I know there's going to be, some people, like if I was new, I would, at least in the beginning, I would just take the Tarot Guilds and stick it on there, because I don't got time or the writing skills to rewrite anything anyway and sound good. But there's another aspect to it, is it actually looks good on your website, especially if you put our logo and everything. It looks good. I abide by the Tarot Guild Code of Ethics. Here it is. Or even use the link to the code on the Tarot Guild website. I follow the code of ethics of the Tarot Guild. Click here. So that's another thing that some people might want to do, because it kind of adds a little bit of gravitas, to your business, that you're a member of a professional organization. Maybe you got certified through us and you have your certificate up there. You have a link to your page on the Tarot Guild site, and of course I'm talking about if you have your own website, what you would put on it, and your code of ethics. You could either print the code of ethics on there or say, click here to read the code of ethics. This is what I abide by, and of course, the other thing is for new people, for folks that are just getting their tarot business going and you're new to the guild and so forth, that are watching this, maybe in archive in the recording, that little secret, you don't need to go to the time and expense to build a website if you don't want to, because as a premium member, you get your own custom URL like mary.thetarotguild.com, sharona.thetarotguild.com, dax.thetarotguild.com. Now, you do have to ask me to make it for you. It's not automatic. Everybody else is on the website that aren't premium members. It's thetarotguild.com/member/their name, which is a little bit long. So if you want to, be the only terry.tarotguild.com, grab it now because it's not been used anyway. But you get your own profile page on the website, and so you can go in there and tweak that. You can change the header, change your profile image. By the way, use a picture of yourself, folks. Do not use a picture of your cat. People don't want to hire your cat as a tarot reader. They want to hire you. Okay. And then
Sometimes they do.
And there's a section in there, well, your dog can read for me. That's fine. But there's on your profile, you'll see near the top, it says edit. That's a button. If you click it, it's going to open up the editor, and you can paste in HTML. You can write in, copy and paste stuff in there. You can put images in, you can put your bio, you can put buy buttons, you can put in links to your PayPal, or however you want to work it. It's completely customizable, and boom, you have your own website. You even have your own blog. When you write articles and post them on the website, all your articles appear on your profile under where it says articles. So they go to your profile and click articles. Wow, there's all of Mary's articles. It doesn't have all the articles on the website, just yours, all right there. It's actually really neat, and it's free. Everybody that signs up for the website gets that profile for free. And if you become a premium member, $1 a month, you get, where can you get hosting for $1 a month? Right. And how can you hire somebody for $1 a month to, build a website for you? It's already there, folks. If you have your own website, that's great. But I'm just saying, if you don't stress over it. Create a Facebook business page for your business and really tweak out your profile on thetarotguild.com, and get a hold of me and let me know what you'd like for your custom URL, your name.thetarotguild.com. Well, I think we should get out of here because it's getting late and it's almost dinner time here. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm
We're
starving.
hungry.
I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Oh, Pam, I did want to point out that my backdrop that I created, I didn't know it at the time. I just like, I need something behind me. I'm going to pull this off of Google and put on our logo and our URL and the Tarot Today radio one. But the Dragon Tarot, it's not Steel Wizard. I know, I wish Steel Wizard was up here, but the Dragon Tarot, there's actually two of them. There's one up here and there's one down here. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's like the universe telling me that, yeah, you did the right thing, making this backdrop. I just had to point that out because you were talking about dragons earlier. Did anybody see anything that we miss in the chat that we should? I think, do we cover everything? Yeah, it looks like we got it all covered. Okay, I just wanted to double check in case someone had a pearl of wisdom there or a question at all. But hey, we're going to do this all over again. And I just want to, I know it's kind of going to date things to, say this on a live, which will become a recording workshop here, but I just, for those of you, consider this is our first workshop we're throwing out there, that Mary's is at the end of February, and that's going to be a really good one about how do you word it, Mary? Setting things up so you're successful every time with a reading, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah, it's like what do you do before you do the reading? What do you do to prepare? Sacred space, I mentioned that, that's part of it. And there's so many different ways to approach that, because it sounds like, I think it's a term a lot of people are familiar with, but they may not know how to go about that or what that can look like, and how do we get, into that neutral place we talked about earlier, where people can ask the wildest things and it doesn't faze us. We're just reading the cards and telling them what the cards say. So how do you get to that neutral zone? How do you get in what I consider to be a light alpha state? Right. I feel like when I'm reading, I'm in a different
totally
framework,
there's
and from there you can be neutral.
There's a lot of tarot readers that have studied hypnosis. And when I talk to my colleagues that are professional hypnotherapists, a lot of them have studied tarot. It's a very interesting, anything to do with the mind.
Yeah.
So I just want to mention real quickly for everyone that we do have a Facebook Live in the Facebook group every Tuesday afternoon and every Saturday evening. So that's another opportunity to ask questions. It's, myself or one of the other staff members on Tuesday. And let's see, it's Joey and Tamara on Saturdays. Tamara is the director of certification. Joey is the director of social media outreach. So there's always staff members on those lives, so you can ask any questions you want, plus just hang out, have fun, pull cards. So that's every Tuesday and every Saturday. And then every first Sunday of the month, we're going to do a live Q&A session just like this, where it's all just talking tarot, asking questions, getting answers to things, So our first one is February 6th. And I'm going to get as many of the staff members, myself and Mary and Sharona and Joey and Tamara and whoever we can get to be there, as many of us as possible, so we can, at least for that first one anyway, so we can answer questions. I'm going to be doing a numerology workshop, numerology for tarot, with Sharona here. Sharona and I will be doing that on the 13th. I'll also be appearing on her radio show. We'll be talking about the Lover's card number 6, and we're in a world year of 6. So we'll be talking about 6 as well. And don't miss the Wednesday, February 23rd one at 7 p.m. Eastern, because Corby Mitleid is going to do the Sorting Hat spread. That's right. Harry Potter. Don't miss that.
It's going to be fun.
And then Mary Brown's on Sunday, February 27th. So that's what's coming up. And I hope you all enjoyed the workshop here, and we're just going to have a lot more fun all throughout 2022. All new for 2022.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for
Thanks everybody for being
hanging
here.
out with us. Bye.
Bye everyone.